Hi, I'm Stephen with AlbertaUrbanGarden.ca. Well, fall has definitely joined us. We've had a few heavy snowstorms, and luckily today it's actually fairly warm and melting in the garden. But what that really means is it's time to clean up and to get ready for next year. So what I have here is the finished compost from last year. It wasn't completely finished in the spring, but I planted squash, which do perfectly fine on unfinished compost. All I did is I moved some of the raw compost that had not finished over to other locations, put a bag of leaves on top to keep the smell down and to keep its appeal, and I planted my squash right in it. The squash that I planted here were able to grow in the unfinished compost, unlike a number of other plants that may have struggled with varying nutrient levels. In fact, I had the best production ever out of my many zucchini plants. Now it is nice and finished and is beautiful, beautiful compost. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spread this out throughout the remainder of the garden, allowing those nutrients to get into areas that they can be put to use next year, and then build my compost here again. In order to be a little bit more sustainable, I've built this composter out of fencing I had left over from my garden fence project and reclaimed survey stakes. So the first thing that I'm putting in here is actually the compost from the summer. I usually put leaves in that bed in the fall and put all the extra scraps of plants and stuff and the brewing waste from when I do my cider. And I put it in the back corner to slow compost. And the reason being is twofold. A, I continue to compost when I don't have enough material to hot compost, but B, you end up with a lot more earthworms, and as you can see, these are red wigglers. These are the best of the best. The intent of having the red wigglers in here is they'll move out of the area when the hot compost gets going, but as it cools off, they'll move in and finish off the composting for us. And the next and probably the most important resource that I add to my fall compost is autumn leaves. It's a brown material, readily available this time of year, and it is just chock full of the beneficial and essential elements for plant growth. So one of the benefits of cleaning up the garden the same day you make your compost is you have all of this green, nitrogen-rich waste. I mean, this is from my asparagus patch, which I clipped down and I covered in compost to add nutrients for next year. And this makes a great addition. So typically what I'll do is I will add 1 part by volume garden green waste to 1 part by volume autumn leaves and start to layer it. So the next thing you want to do is you want to water between each layer. This keeps the moisture content higher within the pile, allowing the bacteria to get really going, because there's a couple of things that the bacteria need that will largely drive this process. They need water, they need air, and they need food. So as many of you may notice, I don't actually have that large a tree, so I don't produce enough autumn leaves for my own garden. So I went looking for a source in my own life so that I'm not making a special trip out to go anywhere. So my son's day home has lots of mature trees, and every year I help them collect them and take them off their hands, which helps them with their yard work and me with my compost. So a tip that I got from my grandfather is to add a thin layer of either potting soil that's been used this last year or this slowly decomposing organic material. And the reason being is they contain the beneficial bacteria that are responsible for a hot compost. And so by using it, you're essentially inoculating your pile, getting it going just that much faster.
Well, the dirt helps rot the leaves and stuff, hey?
So usually by this time, I've got more autumn leaves than I have nitrogen-rich material. So that other free resource, I'm gonna have to go and grab right now so that I can continue to build this pile, because as the temperatures drop, what I really want is this pile to be able to stay warm even when the outside temperatures drop below the freezing mark. One of the added benefits of the explosion of microbreweries is the local availability of brewery grains. These are spent grains from the brewing process. They're no good to the brewer anymore. They're commonly used for feed for livestock, but for the purpose of compost, this is beautiful. It's highly nitrogen rich, and it contains selenium, which in the other garden resources that I've been adding only contain very, very trace amounts. This contains more than enough to ensure that I'll never have a selenium deficiency in my garden soil. The only thing is, these are quite heavy. If you want to work out during gardening, try hauling some spent brewery grain. So I'm going to transfer it from this larger container into this smaller one and get it into the compost. So you usually put these at 1 part by volume brewery grains to 3 parts autumn leaves. Unlike the yard material, the nitrogen content of these grains is quite a bit higher, allowing you to maximize their use. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to layer these autumn leaves with the brewery grains and a little bit of that leaf mold compost until I get to the top. This process will continue over the next few weeks as I'm able to find more and more free and local resources, and as the pile heats up, it'll actually compress down. So over the winter I'll continue to add to it right until spring, when I decide that it's time to stop, to allow it a little time to decompose before I plant next year's squash in it. There are plenty of other free and local resources that you can use to build your compost pile. For instance, you can usually find free wood chips at your local municipal shop, or you can go to coffee shops and get their used coffee grounds. Wood chips are a brown material, coffee grounds are a green material. They, along with the resources that we've added to this compost pile, will make a fantastic nutrient-rich compost, diverting these materials from landfill or a landscape application where they're lost to the food chain. Now, over the next few days, I'm going to use my compost thermometers to make sure that the compost pile is heating up appropriately. Right now it should be cold, but in as little as 24 hours, you should start to see the temperatures rising. After the pile has been built, there is little need to do anything else but let it work. The compost should heat up, breaking down the free and local resources that I've used to build it, releasing their nutrients. Over time, it will cool off and freeze, but by spring, the compost will be ready for planting. Composting is a great way to make sure the nutrients from these otherwise waste products stay in the garden and can be used to grow healthy organic food for free for my family. If you like this video, please make sure to subscribe so you can catch all future episodes.